like I have compromised a lot of my I don't want to say compromise my beliefs, but I think I've held myself back more than I've wanted to, because specifically now, like, I'm applying to medical school, so I feel like there's so much on the line for me. But there's also, like, I go back and forth, I'll be honest. Like, I don't know if you remember last week or a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, where I was like, I don't care.
Yeah. I was like, we're not going there. Like, we deleted and moved a bunch of episodes.
I came up to them because we were, like, trying to come up with topics, and I was like, you know what? I don't care. I was like, I don't care. This is what's going on, and I want to talk about it.
It's my truth. It's the truth that's
going on. And then Linda and Kathy are like, are you sure? Like, they're like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah.
She was stern on it, and Kathy and I was like, no, we're not doing that.
I want to be authentic. I want to be true, and I want to be an advocate, and I want to educate, teach, and inspire. But I also want to keep learning and growing myself. And I think the only way to do that is to challenge myself. So I think that's why I did that, because I want to challenge myself. I want to grow. I don't want to be held back by people, and I think we have to continue challenging the system. So that's why I was ready to do it.
Okay, saying all of that, do you feel that you've been challenging the system or challenging yourself being on this podcast from our ideas from when we started the podcast until where we are now?
In a sense, yes, but I think I could do more. Like, I think there's more that I can push the boundaries. Like, I honestly have grown. Like, I told you I was talking to my partner, and he was like, you're not that positive. Do you remember that comment? Yeah, because he's like, you're always so positive on the podcast. I'm like, you know what? Because I think that's who I'm becoming. Yeah. That wasn't who I was. That wasn't who I was, but I think I'm becoming that person. I think, especially, like, applying to medical school and then having to talk about, like, all my emotions and everything I'm going through, like, it's real. Like, everything I bring up is real. And so it's making me have to talk and bring everything to light. And so I do a lot of reflection on it, and because of that, it's changing me for the better. And I feel like I'm slowly taking the steps I need to become a better version of me. But I think there's always room for improvement, always room for growth.
That all sounds nice. But what is the reason why you're so fearful of being like your authentic self 100%?
I'll tell you why.
Tell me. Tell the listeners. You're going to tell me, because I already know.
Cancel culture. I think it's the one thing I've told you guys. It's I can say one sentence, and I think listeners can think they know me and who I am
and run with it.
Yeah. They're like not even listeners. Like an admissions committee be like, oh, do you see how she said that? Like. Yeah. That, and then they think they know who I am based off of one episode.
And that was your problem with the podcast. It wasn't even much so our listeners. It was just so like what a mission team was saying.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you're still in the process of applying to medical school.
So I feel like there's so much on the line.
There's so much still on the line.
And I worked for this for so long, so I don't want to like cross that boundary where, because it's funny because they teach you. They teach you
one thing.
They teach you. Like I said, what did I say? Applying to medical school has taught me to look at both sides. It's taught me to realize that you can't judge. Yet they're judging
but
me.
In reality,
they do. Yep. You know? And so I'm being graceful with them, but not being graceful with myself, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I'm giving them grace, but not myself grace.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to follow up on this and make it a full circle because I just want to get Kathy.
I'm like, sounds good.
And I'm going to bring it back, give you a little break.
Okay.
I think for me, I honestly feel like I'm not being my true self because my true self will talk about stuff that make people uncomfortable, and I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable, but at the same time, I also have to think about it that it's not just Catherine here, like in my life. I also have a kid. I have a family. Because if it was just me not having a kid, me not having a boyfriend, me not having to like support someone.
Sorry, what? A what?
A fiance. then I would say the real stuff, the rough stuff, the topics that we don't really talk about because I still have to find a job. So like that's my main thing. Like maybe I'm already in the school like that I want it to be, but I have to think about jobs.
And that brings me to think like there's always something.
There's always something.
I was just like the way she said school, work, then it's like, okay, well now I have to keep the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying you're on the other side saying, oh, because of mission boards. But then once you get accepted,
Residency.
it's like residency. And then you start working. And then your patients. And it's always something.
Yes. So that's why I feel like I'm no, and then I'm like, dang, how am I? Because I want to teach my kids. Because I always speak up for myself when I've been in the situations that make me uncomfortable. I always speak up because I don't like staying quiet. Because before I learned how to speak up, I would just stay quiet and take it. And then I'm like, well, how am I gonna tell my kid to speak up when I'm not speaking up right now when I have an audience? But I'm like, but I mean, like in this situation, I'm like, I want to speak up, but at the same time, am I going to lose a job?
Yeah.
You know? And then unfortunately, like I have to have money, you know? So
you have to support yourself. You have to support yourself in your family.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like, and then it kind of upsets me because I wanted to talk about certain topics, but I feel like I'm probably never going to talk about it, or maybe once I have like my own practice or my maybe.
But then, even then,
Am I
even
gonna
then,
have clientele
even
that's
then.
gonna come?
And at the end of the day, what it like, this just is telling me like you're never gonna please everybody.
That's the thing.
You're never gonna please everybody. Like there's always somebody that's gonna not be happy with us.
Yeah,
not
it's in the same. It's like, oh, it's okay when they do it, but when I do it, it's a problem. And that's something you have to remember too, because even if you see like someone else doing what you want or saying. It may be okay when they do it, and if you do it, it's like, oh no, it's an issue.
That's what I'm saying. I gave them grace. About judging me.
Yeah.
But I can't give myself grace.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I also, because the stuff that I want to talk about is sometimes people might agree, sometimes people might not. Just depends on the audience. And this whole like research that I did about cancel culture confirmed it, because I saw this lady, this story of this lady that she wanted to speak out about like how things in healthcare are not okay and everything, but now she's having a hard time getting a job or even holding on a job because of her views, and then because she speaks out and then she has it on her social media. So then they're like, well, and even now they're just like, even though she did this a long time ago, and even though it's issues that they need to be talked about, but because she's the only one who has, I don't want to say it,
Las pelotas.
Yes.
The balls.
Yes.
The balls.
To talk about it, then she's the one who loses a job. Who they even like hire her, and then when somebody brings to their attention like, oh, this is that one person, oh, they let her go.
Yeah.
Or so.
I mean, this is irrelevant, but I was gonna ask. Did she, when she made these videos, did she have like her badge on? Did she have any of that?
No, it was just on her.
They don't be caring.
No.
They will find when you go to work.
They will find it. Yeah.
That's insane.
And it's tricky too, because
That's insane.
I forgot what the topic was, but when I mention it, you guys can remind me. But that's another reason why, even like us and like other influencers and like people of color who have a platform, we try to build up a platform for ourselves.
Right.
But like the whole Daisy Sanchez situation, where she's a Latina, I think she's Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who's a doctor. She's in residency, I believe. Young lady, worked her butt off.
She's actually chief resident. Yeah.
Chief resident. Put some respect on her name. So, anyways, I remember, and her platform is usually like very positive, like her day in the life of her being a doctor and everything. And then I remember seeing her getting backlash because she wasn't talking about certain situations that were popular in media.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, she was probably torn, because it's like, yes, she may feel some type of way, but if she says how she feels, there's that divide. There will be half people who feel some type of way, who supports her, and the other half that doesn't support her. So maybe in her head she was like, I just won't say anything. But it's still that push for an everyday person, pushes for someone who has a big platform, like, oh, you should be saying something. You should, because you have a big platform, da-da-da-da-da. So what was the issue?
Palestine, I think.
Was it that?
Palestine and the war.
Maybe, because I feel like that's the most recent.
Yeah,
I think I think it was the war.
Maybe.
I think it was the war, because I think she did mention something about
eventually.
Yeah.
It
was the war.
But even then, that was social media and society putting that pressure on her to like say something.
Yeah.
But then that's the thing, like everybody puts the pressure on you to say something, and once you're canceled, Are they gonna come and support your bills? Are they gonna come and
They don't even know you.
Right. So,
and I remember someone else, I don't know what influencer it was, but they were like, everyone keeps asking me why I haven't said anything. I think it was specifically about the war. But she was like, I'm not going to speak on something I'm not educated about. And I was like, oh, that's actually really smart. Like, yeah, you should not speak on something you're not educated about, because then you're going to potentially skew the narrative that doesn't exist. And then you're going to lead a bunch of people into a direction that doesn't need to be led. You know, so I think one of the big things I've learned about in researching and everything was, I think if you're going to take part of cancel culture, you definitely need to educate yourself.
And that's what people do not do.
Yes.
You have like a small few that do the education and do the research behind it, and you have the rest are the followers.
Yeah, like you can't watch a video and be like, that's a fact.
Yeah. And that's what social media has caused.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can't just watch one video and be like, that's a fact, and they're canceled and I'm not gonna support them. And no, like, do your research, you know, Google, like, do more research and figure out where this conflict started and why it started and what's going on. You can't just assume something. You can't just assume something based off of how long are TikTok videos? 1 minute, 2 minute?
No,
like video.
1 minute. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm not gonna lie, maybe I've been guilty, you know? I've been guilty too.
Many people have been guilty, but the difference is like we're not over here trying to counsel somebody either.
That's true.
That's true.
Plus, I feel like also people feel so strong behind that screen.
The computer.
Yeah. But
Twitter fingers.
Right.
Twitter fingers.
Yeah. So they feel so strong. But do you know how much harm you're doing to that one person? Like, not only like financially, also like psychologically. Like, you don't know what your repercussions from those words that you're saying are going to have in this one person that you're attacking just because you saw a 60-second video.
Yeah.
And then that's the thing that I get scared about, because then I'm like, okay, well, this is me dreaming. Like, what about if this podcast takes off? And I'm like,
they say, what if it will? Okay.
like when it does, or like I'm like, well, what about if I say the wrong thing and then they go for my kid? Like, I have to think about these things because I'm like, I don't want people attacking my kid.
I agree. I think the screen has made people a lot more confident, and I just think that people need to learn how to give each other grace and learn how to realize that could have been you. That could have been you that made that mistake, and maybe they need to be educated, and maybe you need to educate yourself.
Yep.
And we're human.
We're human. Just like the guy that I gave an example.
Yeah.
He's looking crazy now. He thought he was going to do the counseling and turn around. His butt was the one that got canceled. So now he understands.
Like, we all have days where we have not the best judgment,
When we think one thing is a good idea, we don't run it by nobody and we just go with it.
Yeah.
And we're like, maybe that wasn't the best idea.
But I think that's the one thing that's beautiful about being human is, like, I was watching this, like, thing. It's like, you don't learn from theory. You don't learn from this. You learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
That's what we learn from.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to realize is we are human. We make mistakes. And we need to be more graceful with one another. And, I don't know, to support each other.
Over there. Bring it back to us, because I feel like we asked the question and we went around, just like how it affects us in our podcast. For me,
tell us about you.
I do want to be like very 100% authentic. That's my goal, but then I do see that fine line. It's like, dang, how much can I say without being reprimanded or...
There's a balance.
Yeah. But then again, where is that balance? Like, for me in my head, I was like, oh, this is a good balance. But then someone else, like, no. But at the end of the day, we can't please everyone.
I agree.
And that's part of life.
And I think for us, if I'm being honest, it comes down to communication and like compassion for where we're coming from. Do you know what I mean?
We would hope that's what people would.
No, I'm talking about us three. Like, us three. Forget everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about us three. Like, it comes down to, communicating where we're coming from, and and having compassion for where we're coming from, and learning to help each other grow.
Yeah, and that's how it should be.
Yeah,
friendships, relationships.
Yeah, that's how it should be. For example, there are going to be times where, like, for example, I may be scared to do something because of whatever I'm going through, my admissions committee, whatever. But, like, that's where you guys come in.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. So for me, being wanting to be like 100% authentic and everything, but then kind of having to like we're not being untruthful. Like we're being truthful,
No, yeah.
but we're just not commenting on everything that we would want to comment on.
Right.
Because like right now it's like maybe not be like the position that we are in life right now. Like we're 3 women of color that's still trying to build ourselves up and build our career.
Yeah.
So in a sense that we do have to be mindful of what is said, because again, it's like, yes, society says, I mean, yes, who cares about society? But anyways, at the end of the day, society was like, oh, be truthful, be your authentic self until you do or say something that they do not agree with.
Like very hypocritical. It's very hypocritical.
Mm-hmm. Like you're only able to please someone until they don't agree with you, what you say. And then with this podcast or this with us 3, I know there's moments when I would say something and I don't see it as being harmful or just something that can be us getting like counseled over.
Mm-hmm.
But then Jasmine over on the other hand was like, no guys, I think that's bad. Like we shouldn't say that. And then so now I'm finding myself when I am speaking, I'm like, oh shoot, should I have said that?
Mm-hmm.
And just like,
I'm gonna be honest with you. Yeah, I probably have made you feel that way, and I'm really sorry if I've made you feel that way. I'm gonna be more mindful. Like this, honestly.
Yeah.
No.
But you don't have to apologize. I'm just saying, like how, in a sense, how scared or triggered we are about something.
How affected
like,
we are.
Affected you are.
Yeah, but I think, but that's what I'm saying. That's where I'm coming from. Like we're women of color, and we have each other, and like I feel like we are a group, and we need to support each other and lift each other up. So like if I'm coming at you where you're feeling like you can't do that, Kathy or me should be like, you know what? No, we're we're a group, and I think we need to support each other and help lift each other up and push the boundaries together.
But there was a situation where you guys saved my butt.
Huh?
There was a situation where you guys like saved me because
about the
the situation that I had with the teacher.
Yeah,
and you guys literally like, because like at the moment I feel like this situation could have helped a lot of people.
Yeah,
and it probably could have, but it could have harmed
right now. Like at the moment where you're in, it's not the best to talk about it.
Yeah,
it's still a student.
Yeah. So like it's a balance.
So, it's a balance. Yeah.
So it was like, okay, maybe in the very, very long future I'll talk about the situation, but for right now maybe it's not. And so that's why it's like, it's good that we have kind of those filters,
but also
it's kind of like when should we stop filtering, you know?
Yeah. But also wait, so the thing too was we didn't silence you. We just gave you advice on how to go about it a different way as well. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then the whole recording thing was like, oh, maybe this is a sign. Maybe she shouldn't say at all.
Yeah.
Anyway,
they're like, what's going on?
Yeah. And then in 10 years, you'll hear about the situation.
You will know, and I'll bring it back. Like, remember that day?
No comment.
Yeah. Yeah. So because of that, I do find myself like overthinking. Like, oh, is this okay to say?
Yeah. Because
again, and I say that I wasn't saying that, Jasmine, to make you feel bad.
No, I didn't feel bad. I genuinely am sorry.
Yeah. But it was more so like I do understand where you're coming from, because you're still applying to medical school. Yeah. So it's like, yes, in a sense that in your head you have to be more strict about certain things, because we're in school. Mm-hmm. You're still applying to school. So it's like, dang guys, like let's calm it down, because the mission boards may see this. And I know that I feel like this can be like an episode within itself after you get accepted into school. Mm-hmm. But we had even deleted some episodes.
We did.
We blocked some episodes because of the fear that
they were going to be
she would be reprimanded by admission boards of the stuff that was said,
of how they were perceived.
Yeah. But even though the stuff that we were saying, it was very relevant and valid. Yeah. But then again, everyone has their own views on certain topics.
Their own views, their own truth, their own way they perceive it, their own opinions. Yada yada yada.
Yeah. Because we even had I was pissed at Jasmine at one point. But then, like, understanding both sides. Like, I was upset with her. I was like, because Jasmine literally called us. I was like, hey, guys, I talked to my advisor, and he said that it'll be best to, like, put the podcast on hold. Mind you, this was all the way back in August. Mm-hmm. And they're saying put the podcast on hold all the way until, like, March.
Which was not something I was considering I wasn't considering that at
But
all.
you brought it up to us.
No. I brought it up because that's what they said, but I was like, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way
There's
that's
no
happening.
way.
I was
So
like, there's
that's-
a way around that. Like, that's not happening.
Yeah, so that's the reason why we hid the episodes and deleted some episodes to kind of combat that. But that shows, it's like, dang, we want to live in our truths, but then again,
There's so many
barriers and layers to everything. And even, can I bring up the episode about the drunk?
Yeah.
So we have recorded an episode. It's a Valentine's episode.
Just released today.
And Kathy was talking about giving a story about like this high school guy who was drinking, and she referred to him as a drunk. And then after the episode, Jasmine's like, guys.
No, even during the episode.
Oh, during the episode you mentioned that?
During the episode I mentioned, I've never heard, like, I don't typically hear of someone referred to as a drunk. I normally hear it referred to as someone who has an alcoholic dependency. I said something along those lines.
Yeah. So, but my point is, like, after the episode, we were more like we talked about it more.
Yeah.
And then she was saying that that's something that should not have been said. And in my head, I was like, well, he's a drunk. He's a drunk. And I'm like, if he's an alcoholic, it's the same as an alcoholic, same as a lush. But then again, that's not politically correct. That's not grammatically correct. Yeah. So even then, like, we were going back and forth, like, oh, Kathy shouldn't have said it. And Jasmine's like, well, she said it. It's not grammatically correct. And we didn't want to get backlash from that. But in my head, I was like, why would people get backlash? But then it's that divide. Some people may care and other people may not care. So it's like, what the hell did we do?
Yeah. And then I was like, damn, I did it again. Like,
No, and I don't want you to feel that way. I don't want you to feel that way at all. I just, like, I learned, like, you know, you don't, like, just jump at someone and be like, you're not supposed to say it that way. But, like, this is how I normally hear it, and this is, I think, how it's normally said, so just FYI, you know?
But then I do agree with what you're saying, but for, like, if I was, like, in a public, professional setting, of course I'm not going to say, like, oh, he's a drunk, da-da-da-da. But the setting that we're in, this podcast is supposed to be, like, three friends were just
informal.
Yeah. But then I think that comes again with, like, I'm still applying.
Yeah.
Does she refer to people who have alcoholic dependencies as drunk? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So it gets tricky.
It does get tricky.
Yeah, because the reason why I say drunk, because I'm like, why am I going to call him an alcoholic? I don't diagnose no one. Because then again, you have the people that think that everything that we said are set on stone.
Fact. Yeah.
And then, like, that we're giving them, like, you know, like, health.
And we're not. I don't know how many times we got to tell y'all, listen,
we are not your providers.
We are not. We're not.
We're just talking.
But then, you know, like, that's when it came out like that, because when I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, if I said alcoholic, people might be thinking that I am diagnosing him, but that's not true. I didn't diagnose him.
That makes sense.
Like, you know, so I'm like, so.
And it's crazy how things are perceived. For me, drunk and alcoholic is the same dang thing. Like, to me, it's the same.
Okay.
Like, you say a person is a drunk, they're an alcoholic.
And that's funny because when I talked to it with my partner, she was like, they're very different. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, see, and I was thinking it's the same. Just like the word lush used to be for alcoholics, but people don't use lush anymore. People don't really use drunk. I don't know what you will call people nowadays. But to me, it was all the same thing.
Yeah.
But it gets complicated.
It does get complicated.
It does. Because we're three different people with three different heads. So you see how one word got
misconstrued.
Yeah. Like Jasmine was saying, oh no, Jasmine was saying it's a problem. Me, I was like, no, it's not a problem. You say what you mean and mean what you say.
I guess. Yeah, you know, I think a lot, and I just don't. I myself don't want to offend anybody, and I know you guys don't.
I wouldn't want to offend anybody.
And I know you guys don't want to offend anybody, but like I told you, I'm more sensitive than you guys, so like I think like a little differently.
I'm sensitive too. It's just like certain things.
Yeah.
And because for me, I feel like I'm an empath, so I pull from other people's emotions. I can pick up on people's energy. It's a gift that I have.
A blessing and a curse.
It's definitely, like, recently been more so a curse for me, but that's another episode within itself.
Save that.
No. Just like the title, like being an empath and working in healthcare.
Yeah. No, that's
because I've been struggling.
Save it.
No, I'm gonna save it. I'm just saying that would be an episode.
I'm gonna put that on the list.
This episode they'll hear. We will write it down. But so, what other stories?
Well, there also have been like, okay, so not from this podcast, but I also things that I've seen for like podcasters that I've listened to, where this person, he brings like influencers to give them a voice to talk about like their toxic relationships, and then just so people can learn and see like relationships red flags, because sometimes we as women or men, because we're so in love, we don't see these red flags and we don't know when to get out.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, I used to look at jobs and I'm like, girl.
Tell me why I was just talking to my partner about that on my shift. She was like, I didn't get it, because her partner was going through the same thing. And I was like, girl, you don't get it if you don't go through it.
So he's giving these influencers that just for them to come and tell their story, but he does like a disclaimer right before, like, I'm not a psychologist. If you guys need therapy, go to therapy. And we're not here to judge nobody or backlash or cancel anyone. We're just talking about life experience and
real
take it
life.
as right.
Real
Yeah.
life is not perfect.
Right. And take it as you want to take it.
Yeah.
But because, they're influencers, obviously they usually date other influencers.
Right.
So they have been trying to cancel him, and he even said it because he also has like, he does a podcast, but he also does like other jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And he has like businesses and everything. And then he's like, I just do this to help, empower women, and then people are just trying to cancel me because they're saying that I'm profiting from their hurt, from their experiences. And then like they're trying to cancel me because they tell me that I go and tell the listeners to go and cancel somebody, even though if you listen to the whole episode, he has a disclaimer, and he always says we're not here to cancel people, we're here to learn. So it's just these things that I'm like, well, even if you have a disclaimer, even if you say it throughout it, like, people are still gonna just hear whatever they want to hear.
They want to hear.
Yeah.
Again, that goes back to, you literally cannot please everybody.
Please everyone.
Yeah, so I was like, wow, it sucks, because he's really trying to give these people a voice, and I feel like that's something that is very important right now, and it has been important in the past, but nobody have really talked about it. But right now it's very important, because people have always comment on the podcast like, oh, I've been with my husband for years, and now I realize that I'm in a toxic relationship that I need to get out, and they get out.
Yeah.
But if this were been talking about in the past, she probably hadn't been gone to 40 years of hell, living with somebody that abused her, hit her, blah, blah, etc., etc., etc. So that's what I'm saying is like, what's properly, like, what can we do?
That's the thing. There is none.
And I feel like it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
I'm scared for the future. I'm scared for my kids and everything.
That's literally what Jonathan says.
Yes, and I know we're going back. I was like, I don't care. I'm going Jonathan's side. Like, I agree with him. Like, I'm scared.
He's like, this world is too sensitive, when he's dating the most sensitive person on the planet.
But it's just like, because certain things like you will like play with back in the day, or that we play right now, people will say like, oh, you're bullying her, or you're abusing her, or like, it's just like, I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna tell Tiago 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it's one thing, because times change and everything is, as time goes, we become more educated, and things that was like normalized back then, of course, isn't normalized now. Like, we have a better understanding for certain things. There's some things I'm like, are we really that upset about this?
I think it just has to do with like really being your own person and doing your own digging in your own research and your own, like, having your own perspectives and not letting it get skewed by other people. You know what I mean? Like, because it's really easy, like, to if I'm in this group, right, and I have an opinion, and you and Kathy believe something else, and I could easily just change my opinion because I'm like, oh, well, the majority of the group,
just like that study.
Yeah.
But that's why we have to learn as a society, to learn how to not even agree to disagree, but just understand that people have different opinions, and that's okay. Like, still live your life and move around. Like, don't, just because someone else has a different opinion, you don't have to hate them or bash them. It's like, okay, that's life.
And that's one of the negatives that I saw in cancel culture. I feel like cancel culture has a lot of positivity in the sense that it gives voice to people, but also it takes away voices.
It takes away.
It takes away diversity. It takes away potentially really good ideas or really good opinions, you know,
and to even have that dialogue, that conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
how do you develop opinions? It's by going back and forth and you stimulating my thought process. You know what I mean? So yeah, it has potential to really negatively impact, I think, society if we don't realize that cancel culture has its pros and has its cons. If we don't take hold of it before it takes hold of us, I think.
And the whole thing of something starting off so positive and ending like negative, like having a negative connotation in the end, because I feel like that's how a lot of things start. It starts on like about positivity, like doing something good, and as it go on, and like people start to take that positivity where it's like it's not positive anymore.
Do you know what my example was?
Black Lives Matter.
Actually, it goes further back.
Oh.
So one of the examples when I was doing research was, because you know how like cancel culture, obviously it's like blacklisting, boycotting, all that.
Yeah.
I was doing research. I mean, and I'm sure it goes even further back than my example, but the example that I found when I was like the civil rights movement and the Montgomery, the bus boycott in the civil rights movement with Rosa Parks, and when they boycotted because they were making black people sit in the back. That's an example of you know, cancel culture and boycotting to give people voice and to get, you know,
to do something positive.
Yes. I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
That's what I'm saying, it goes back like years back.
Yeah.
But then it's like where we are now.
I think like with everything, like it's a balance, like, you know, like
it should be a balance.
Yeah, with everything.
With everything, with life.
Yeah, with everything.
Definitely should be a balance.
So I just think if I were to give any advice, it's like cancel culture can be good and cancel culture can be really harmful, but I think it comes down to the individual to be able to take hold of that, do research, listen to their own thought, and follow themselves and not listen to the masses, I think.
Yeah. And that's a good point to close this episode, honestly.
Yes, if you want.
Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys learned something, and maybe by you guys learning, we could create a change and just change this cancel culture that is going on right now. And until next time, bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of PG3 with your hosts Linda, Jasmine, and Kathy. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe at a potent dose of 3 so that you never miss an episode and your weekly dose.